resource planning, we said that we are to ensure that we have got to get 5 rights. So it is pertaining to the recruitment and selection process that planning has to be done in human resource management. The first thing that we have got to look at is to decide what positions the organization wishes to fill through personnel planning and personnel forecasting or HR forecasting. Similarly, we also have got to build a pool of candidates for those jobs by recruiting internal or external candidates. Internal would be through promotions, where external has to be acquired from the open market. Third would be that have candidates complete application forms and perhaps undergo an initial screening review or a test followed by interview. Now, once the forms has been filled up, depending on the number of applicants, we will use selection techniques like tests, background investigations, physical examinations to identify viable candidates, suitable candidates for the organization. And fifth is to decide who to make an offer by having the supervisor and perhaps others in the team interview the candidate. This is what basically happens. Now, in order to do a planning, we will need to do certain forecasting. That is, employment or personnel planning is defined as the process of deciding what positions the firm will have to fill and how to fill them, right? What positions to fill and how to fill them. Here, we are saying how many people do the organization need, and how many people do they need to hire. So that is basically saying that these two things has to be done. Once we say how many people do we need is pertaining to long-term planning of the organization, whereas how many people do we need to hire would be pertaining to mid-term and short-term planning of the organization. Here we are concentrating on the short-term planning as far as personnel planning is concerned. Then we have got to also look at succession planning, the process of deciding how to fill the company's most important executive jobs. Normally, what we notice in the organizations that most recruitment would take place at the entry level of the cadre. If there are more than one cadre jobs available, then entry cadre jobs will be there, and there will be promotions from within that cadre to the upper cadre. For example, if you look at banking industry per se, we have got officers cadre comprising of 7 different grades, grade 1 to grade 7, grade 1 being probationary officer, and grade 7 being the chief executive of the organization, the chairman. The second cadre is considered as the clerical cadre, right? And the third cadre is considered as subordinate staff cadre. Subordinate staff cadre again comprises of 3 different wings, 1, 2, and 3. And what happens that mostly, if you look at the banking sector, the recruitment would be as probationary officers, recruitment would be as first level clerk, or recruitment would be as in the first grade of the subordinate staff. Now, as per the policy of the organization, they say that as and when there is a vacancy, those in the lower position, that is clerical position and subordinate position, will get an opportunity to appear in the higher level test and qualify for that if they can. They are provided with the facilities, and certain percentage seats are reserved for people from within the organizations. Similarly, in other organizations as well, we find that the higher positions are always filled up through promotions or being given internal movement through screening within the organization. That is what we refer to here as succession planning that is there. Then the question is that what to forecast? We have got to forecast overall personnel needs. This is how many people do we need to hire, the long-term planning that I referred to. Forecasting has to be done for the supply of inside candidates, that is how many people are promotable. And we also have got to look at supply of outside candidates, that is from different sources outside the internal sources. As far as forecasting is concerned, we find that one of the popular methods of forecasting would be trend analysis. It's a statistical technique where the study of firms' past employment needs over a period of years is done to predict the future needs. What has been the trend in past? How many people have normally left the organization? How many people have on an average retired from the organization? How many people on an average has been fired from the organization? So on and so forth. So we're looking at and how many people in the net the organization has needed in total number, plus an addition or subtraction has to be done based on these exits on different counts, and then we arrive at the total figure that the organization needs. And that can be worked out through trend analysis of the past few years. Then we also have a second method. This is called ratio analysis. Ratio analysis is a forecasting technique for determining future staff needs by using ratios between a causal factor and the number of employees needed. These causal factors are basically relating to business variables we are referring to. It assumes that relationship between causal factor and staffing need is constant that they look at. It will also include the economic condition. It will also include the trade cycle that we are to study. Then we find that there is yet another method called a scatter plot, or a graphic method used to help identify the relationship between two variables, that is size of the organization and the number of people that they require. In this case, we are saying that it is given the example of hospital and nurses, that is based on size of hospital based on number of beds and number of registered nurses with the organization who are there. Similarly, what we find that there are drawbacks of scatter plots. Scatter plots focus on projections and historical relationships. They generally do not consider the impact of companies' strategic initiatives or proactive policies. They tend to support compensation plans that reward managers for managing ever-changing staff and will not uncover managers who expand their staff irrespective of strategic needs. They tend to bake in the non-productive ideas that increases in their staffs and are inevitable, and they tend to validate and institutionalize existing planning. We also find that when we are planning, we would see that has the organization gone for restructuring process or process re-engineering that they do, and with that we look at different needs. Similarly, we also find that there is a forecast called computerized forecasts. Computerized forecast uses software package to determine future staff needs by projecting sale volume of production and personnel requirement to maintain a volume of output. See, normally you would see that in the organizations, every employee is, in a marketing employee is given a target. Target starts from the bottom and target goes up to the top, that the salesperson feet on the street will have a target, and their supervisor, who has got more than 10, 20 people working with them, would have a cumulative target. Similarly, the supervisor's cumulative would be officer's target. Officer's cumulative will be the assistant manager's target, and likewise we go on. So what we find that it generates figures on average staff level required to meet product demands as well as forecast for direct labor, indirect staff, and exempt staff who are there. Typical matrix direct labor hours required to produce 1 unit of product, a measure of productivity, and similarly 3 sales projections, minimum, maximum, and probable. So it is not only done for the sales volume, even for the production that we have, we will be doing these projections. Similarly, this projection will be done for the finance and for handling human resource people as well. Then we also find that forecasting inside candidates, the qualifications inventory that is being maintained. I think we mentioned in the beginning that when we started with the computerization process, we had a software called manpower inventory system, right? Manpower, MPIS, rather than human resource information system. And that was initially developed by an organization called Kalehan of Mumbai, which was being utilized by majority of banks then and by other organizations as well. What we find that manual or computerized record listing employees' education, career and development interest, languages, specialist skills, so on and so forth, to be used in selecting inside candidates for promotion. Now, manually, the system is referred to as card deck system, where multi-fold cards are there, where entries are being done for fixed records, which are less likely to change, and there are folds, there are data which changes over a period of time. Say, for example, education level. Say, for example, their training that they have acquired, skill level, and so on and so forth. Similarly, some of the personal data may also change for some time. For example, the marital status, the number of children, and so on and so forth. These data is being maintained both in a computerized format and on a card deck system. Although it is found out that the card deck system that we have, the updation of data is somewhat a problem. Therefore, mostly today, people maintain a computerized inventory system comprising of all data, that is the data that the organization needs as far as these people are concerned. See, in computerized terminology or in database terminology, we find that we have got this data which is being maintained by the organization. So the profile is manpower profile is being maintained as a whole by the organizations, and it is being utilized by the organization as and when a report is needed by them. Then there are manual systems and replacement charts. This personal replacement charts, that is company records showing present performance and promotability of inside candidates for the most important positions. And we have got position replacement cards, a card that is prepared for each position in a company to show possible replacement candidates and their qualifications which are there. So this is as far as the manual is concerned. Similar thing is being maintained in terms of file on the computers. Now, computerized information system is referred to as human resource information system. If you recall, when we were looking at the systems model of organization function. At the bottom, we had human resource information system with three double-headed arrows that interacts with the human resource system as a whole. It collects data and provides data to the human resource system. That is what we are referring to here, which is computerized inventory of information that can be accessed to determine employees' background, experience, and skills that may include work experience codes, product or service knowledge. It will also include industry experience and formal education that they have acquired over a period of time. But there are questions. The questions are regarding the security of data, because data secrecy is very, very important, because if it is not being done, the problem would be there. Today, if you find in India, if you are having a mobile phone, your number is there, and that number is available to n number of people, because these mobile companies sell that data that is available with them to different sales companies. They are selling it to different agencies who, for no reason, prompt. They send you messages, they call you for things. So that is not the data security. There is hardly any data security in India in terms of this data. That is being sold for a few pennies to these companies just for earning money. For money's sake, the security has been compromised. But if you look at data secrecy in terms of, say, countries like the Western European countries, you talk about even Far Eastern countries, or you talk about the highest level which is being maintained by the US securities, which is there. Here, even when you fill up a form for your passport, that data is available to the outside world, right? But if you are applying for a visa, a US visa, what happens? They initially give you a code, that code with your own name, and then they ask you for another level of security with your, not mother's name, but mother's mother's name, or father's name, and n number of security clauses are there that you have got to reply, and then you get into the forms. And as and when you have got to enter, you will first enter the code, then 5-digit of your surname, then the security question has to be answered before you are allowed entry into your own forms. Therefore, what we find that kind of data security, multi-level security is needed by the HR people so that we are not disclosing data to any other agencies. And therefore, what is needed is there is a lot of HR information to keep secure. Control of HR information can be established through the use of access matrices that limit users. Everybody cannot access everything. One can access their own data, but not the data of other individuals. There are legal considerations in countries like US, as we said, that is Federal Privacy Act of 1974, that gives employees rights regarding who has access to information about their work history and job performance. Similarly, they have got this security for each kind of positions. In India, we do say that there are data security acts are being passed, but the security is not there. Therefore, we have got to operate with caution. Forecasting the supply of candidates, that was, we have looked at factors impacting the supply of outside candidates, that is based on general economic condition. If economic condition is rosy, it is better, it is improving, or it has improved, we have got a different kinds of supply that will be available, and expected unemployment rate would also be there, that is there. In today's environment, last 2 years, we find that the unemployment has been increasing at an increasing rate because of the slowdown that has been created by the pandemic. Before that, economic slowdown was there. Uh, we also had this unemployment due to demonetization and other policies of the government. So what we find that the factors that comes up does have an impact on the supply from outside candidates. Therefore, sources of information would be periodic forecast in business publications, online economic projections that can be there by different agencies of the country. In India, we have got we find that economic forecast is done by the ministry from time to time in different ways. Now, what exactly do we want? We want effective recruitment. So effective recruiting would be external factors affecting recruiting, that is looming under supply of workers. If supply is less, if the number of available people is less, then choice will become limited and recruitment may not be very, very effective. But in Indian scenario, supply is never less. If you are saying that there is a job meant for the graduates, we find that even other people having higher qualifications apply for those jobs, and there is no provision that we bar them. In Western scenario, if you are, they say that they need graduate, and you are having a master's degree or you are having a master's degree in management or any other discipline, you apply, you will get a polite letter saying that thank you very much for showing interest for the job in question. However, we notice from your records, personal records, that you are found to be overqualified for the job. Therefore, you will not be considered. We wish you good luck for your future, for finding a suitable job. In case there is a vacancy in the organization in future, do apply for the same. But in India,
even this mail is I have received as well, when like this happens when your experience is more than the experience they require. So
even the qualification, it's overall.
Yes,
see, I said mostly we do not get such letters in India. If you have got it, you are lucky. But if you apply that in the anytime, anywhere in the Western world, you are 100%, you are going to get such letter.
Even so, the recruitment, like if you're applying for a company based in USA, then there are different security questions that you have to pass, and then only you can register for the account.
See, that is there in the online system only. But if you are applying offline, such security is not there, right? Then we have got lessening of the trend in outsourcing of jobs, because outsourcing has become very, very common kind of a scenario, that large number of jobs are outsourced. We get things done, and then we only indulge into main business which is there. Then increasingly fewer qualified candidates from outsides are available. That will affect the recruitment process. Similarly, internal factors are also there, which affects recruiting. The consistency of the firm's recruitment efforts with its strategic goals, the available resources, types of jobs to be recruited, and choice of recruiting methods, that also affects the recruitment. Then non-recruitment HR issues and policies of the organization will affect, and line and staff coordination and cooperation will be another factor. We find that there are advantages of centralized recruiting, where it strengthens employee brand, it eases in applying a strategic principle, reduces the duplication of HR activities, reduces the cost to a large extent, builds team of HR experts, provide for better measurement of HR performance, and allow for sharing of applicant pools. Now, what we find that measuring recruiting effectiveness has to be done. That is what to measure and how to measure. That is how many qualified applicants were attracted from each recruitment sources that organizations have, issued circular or issued an advertisement for. Assessing both the quantity and quality of applicants produced by a source will be very, very important. Then for high performance recruiting, applying best practice management techniques to recruiting, using a benchmark oriented approach to analyzing and measuring the effectiveness of recruiting efforts, such as employee referrals, which has become very, very common in terms of recruitment in large number of organizations. In fact, if you look at premier institutions, major recruitment is through referrals, and recruitment even at the higher levels are mostly through the referrals which are there. It is not being done through open market exercises. Now, internal sources has got both advantages and disadvantages. The advantage of having internal candidates is that they will have foreknowledge of candidates' strengths and weaknesses, because you already have those employees working. Then more accurate view of candidates' skill. Candidates have a strong commitment to the company because they feel that they are being given chance for upward movement. It increases employee morale, and less training and orientation especially is needed. But disadvantage is that failed applicants become discontented. Time will be wasted in interviewing inside candidates who will not be considered, and inbreeding charge is always there on such organizations who only promote from within the organization. Now, how to find internal candidates? They will be found through a job posting, that is publicizing an open job to employee, often by posting it on bulletin boards and listing its attributes, and rehiring former employees are also there. Now, rehiring of former employees are there who has been made redundant on a temporary layout that is there. You can hire them back. But there are advantages and disadvantages of that. There are known quantities that is there, and they have firm and its culture. They know the firm and their culture. So that is the advantage. But disadvantage is that they may have less than positive attitude towards the organization who laid them off earlier, and rehiring may send wrong messages to current employee about how to get ahead. That is there. What we find that internal candidates will normally be considered for succession planning. That is the process of ensuring a suitable supply of successors for current and future seniors or key jobs. Succession planning will have steps like identifying and analyzing the key jobs, creating and assessing candidates, and selecting those who will fill the key positions for which people are needed. Now, outside sources for candidates can be had by advertising in the media, and therefore selection of media becomes very, very important. We will ensure that best medium depends on positions for which firm is recruiting. For example, we will be going for newspaper, vernacular or national or international. So we say that local and specific labor markets will be one. If it is to be an all India basis and an open national dailies will be considered. Within the national dailies, we find that the most popular dailies will be approached. Trade and professional journals, the trade journals that is being issued. For example, if you are in the stock exchange jobs, they will advertise in the Journal of Stock Exchanges or any other journal that is related to a particular kind of market. Then we also have got internet job sites where this advertisement is being done, and there will be marketing programs in which we are going to post it. Then constructing an effective ad is always an art. Therefore, wording related to job interest factors should evoke the applicant's attention, interest, desire, and action, and create a positive impression of the firm. In this case, you will find that the dubious words should not be used, or double meaning words should not be used. Any word that irritates maybe certain gender or certain race or certain caste should not be utilized, or certain region should not be used in that kind of and the types of employment agencies is yet another source where public agencies operated by the state or central government in India, agencies associated with non-profit organization or privately owned agencies. In India, we find that we have got agencies of all three kinds which are in operation, although we find that government agencies has become somewhat defunct. For example, you have got employment agency which was established as per the Act of 1963 in all districts of the country. We do have an employment agency that exists in our university as well. Has anybody seen that agency? Anybody has seen the employment agency that is available in our university?
TPO,
Training
sir.
and placement department.
No,
Sir,
no, no,
TPO?
no, no. No, the government agency I'm referring to. See,
Sir, no.
earlier when we were a student, it used to be in the building where presently, that MASCOM is located.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay.
Now it has been shifted. If you go towards the union office, right in front of Department of Arabic, on the left side of the road, you find that employment agency has been shifted, right? But who registers? Does any student get registered there? Answer is no. So it has become more or less a white elephant. But agencies in some of the states and union territories are very, very active. For example, if you go to Delhi, there are multiple employment exchanges which operates, and without region-wise. So West Delhi has got employment exchange of West Delhi, East Delhi, South Delhi, Central Delhi, and North Delhi. So there are at least 5 agencies, and whichever offices are located in that particular region for the lower level jobs, clerical jobs, and subordinate staff jobs, until you are having the number of that agency registration, you will not get employment in that particular region, right? But that is not made mandatory here. Therefore, we are finding that these agencies has become defunct. But privately owned agencies, there are large number online and offline agencies that we have. So we have got the Mulchandani's agency, which is most popular online, which is that. Anybody knowing about Mulchandani's agency? Naukri.com.
No, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
sir.
Naukri.com we have heard
Yes, sir.
about.
Naukri.com. Shine.com.
Oh, there
Monster.com. These all are job
are large
portals.
number of that. Initially, it was Naukri.com, which was established by Mulchandani, who is IM A graduate, right? And
Okay, sir.
he started that agency from the garage of his father-in-law in Bangalore, right? And today, he's a multimillionaire. So what we find that these agencies are operating more effectively than others. We
Sir,
also, yeah.
sir, are these agencies, do they look for only the candidates who have a domicile of that particular region or a native?
No. See, these agencies are all India character agencies, and therefore the private agencies would not look for the region, they look for anybody from anywhere. But yes, the matching of job is being done by them, and therefore they would prefer that if matching is being done, that is mostly for the region that they do. Just hang on to say somebody at the gate. Just 1 minute. Sorry. Yeah, okay.
Actually, sir, the
Now
thing
there
is
are,
that, sir,
yeah,
actually these Naukri portal has two accounts, one for the employer and one for the candidates who wants to look for the job. So, like the employer one is the paid one. So, companies who are into recruiting go for that account and they pay certain amount. Like for 1 month, you can search this much profiles or infinity.
say,
So,
say you are not concerned with how much the organization pays them. You are concerned with that you have got agencies through which recruitment does take place, right? I'm only
okay,
emphasizing
sir.
that how much fee is to be paid by the individuals in some cases, how much fees is to be paid by the employers to them, how many months salary that is there. Even if you are leasing a house anywhere through agencies, they say that 1 month's rental is to be charged, right? And therefore they upgrade the rental if you are going through an agency rather than the private personal things. So all those things are there. If agency gets involved, of course the fee should be there. Now, what are the reasons for using a private employment agency? When a firm does not have an HR department or has got a weak HR department, we find that we will go for an agency. Now, the firm has found it difficult to, in the past, to generate pool of qualified candidates. We look for an agency. The firm must fill a particular opening quickly. Then they opt for an agency. There is perceived need to attract a greater number of minority or female applicants or reserve category candidates. We use an agency. The firm wants to reach current employed individuals who might feel more comfortable dealing with agencies rather than applying directly to the company, and firm wants to cut down on the time it's devoting to recruiting. That is because time is going to be a cost to the organization as well. And therefore, we find that these agencies are needed. Now, how to avoid problems with employment agencies? Give the agency an accurate and complete job description, because if you are not providing them complete job description, there will be problem vis-a-vis recruitment. Make sure that tests, applicant blanks, and interviews are part of the agency selection process. And if possible, ask them to screen the candidates, and final selection should be decided by the organization itself. Periodically review data on candidates accepted or rejected by these agencies, and screen the agencies. Check with other managers or HR people to find out which agency have the most effective at filling the sorts of position needed to fill by the organization, and review the internet and few back issues of the Sunday classified ads to discover agencies that handle the positions to be filled that is there. Now, benefits of agency would be benefits of temporary staff is always being considered, because temporary staff you will normally get from these agencies paid only when working, more productive, no recruitment, screening and payroll administration is there, and cost of temp is fees paid to temporary agencies and lack of commitment. Today, we find that there are organizations which are, not only recruiting agencies, they are supplying agencies of the different firms. For example, there are certain agencies which are operating in Gurgaon of India, or Bangalore, or even in Mumbai, we have that. Now, these agencies are basically hiring people for firms in US, for firms outside India, in the Far Eastern countries. Those people are mostly Indians. They are working on the roles of these agencies, but working for, your American firm or a Japanese firm or a British firm or a French firm. So their timings are that these agencies work 24 hours, depending on which country they are dealing with. And then they are working online for these agencies. So online job dealings are being done by these agencies. I, of course, know few organizations which are operating in this manner. Even one of my PhD scholar who did PhD with me is having an organization in Gurgaon which operates on this principle. That is there. So there are agencies which hires for the other organization, and there are agencies which is supplying, and they get paid. These companies get paid, and in turn they pay to their employees who are there. So liability of the organization gets reduced. Now what we find that temporary employees treatment by employers in a dehumanizing, impersonal, and ultimately discouraging way is not there. We also find that insecurity about their employment and pessimistic about the future, worry about their lack of insurance and pension benefits, being misled about their job assignments, in particular about whether temporary assignments were likely to become full-time positions, being underemployed, which is very, very common. And in general, they are angry towards corporate world and its values, right? I'll continue this lecture tomorrow. That is on the next turn when we meet. Thank you. If you have any question, please feel free to ask.
Sir, can you please, sir, can you please again tell me the difference between temp agencies and private agencies? I didn't get that.
See, we said that there are agencies which are employing people directly for full-time jobs, right? They are doing the screening, they are doing the interviews, they are giving them the test, and then the person is finally put on the rolls of the organizations.
Okay, sir.
Right? Then there are agencies which is recruiting people themselves, but supplying them to the companies.
Okay, sir.
Right? So those are temp agencies I'm referring to.
Okay, sir.
One of the most popular temp agency is called Cali Girl, which operates in Western Europe and in US, which supplies secretaries to almost all kinds of organizations which are there, clerical staff to different organizations involved in data processing and other things. But they are not on the rolls of the organization, they are on the rolls of the agency, and then these agencies pay them. Okay?
Okay, sir. Okay,
Right.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Please show number the 16 slide.
Slide number 16.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, here you are. Can you see it?
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
See you on Monday then.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.